This week on Women Who Rise, I'm joined by Camryn Cisneros, one EXP manager at EXP Realty, Oklahoma Realtor, U.S. Army veteran, and 2026 Housing Wire Rising Star. Cameron's story is about what happens when you stop shrinking to fit into rooms that were never big enough for you and start building your own. We talk about identity as a leadership advantage, why belonging is one of the most powerful business strategies, and how service, courage, and community can transform the way you rise. If you've ever felt like you were waiting for permission to lead, this conversation will meet you right where you are and challenge you to build bigger. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Women Who Rise. I'm your host, Heather Mansy. Today, I'm joined by Camryn Cisneros, one EXP manager at EXP Realty, Oklahoma Realtor, U.S. Army veteran, and one of Housing Wire's 2026 Rising Stars. Camryn has become a powerful voice for belonging in real estate, helping grow the One EXP Pride Network from 900 to 20,000 members, while leading culture and connection strategy across EXP's international agent community. Her journey from military service to real estate leadership is rooted in discipline, courage, identity, advocacy, and the belief that culture is not just emotional, it is a real driver of growth. Cameron's message is especially meaningful for women who are ready to stop waiting for permission, use their voice, and build rooms big enough for the future they are called to create. Camryn, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to dive into it today. Thank you for the intro.
Absolutely. You earned every word. So I wanted to ask, let's just dive right in. When you think back to your time before real estate, especially your military service, what did that season of your life teach you about discipline, service, and leadership that still shows up in the way you build community today?
I would say for the military, showing up even when it's hard,
Yeah.
having the discipline to push through the mental roadblocks, the physical pain, the emotional pain, and having a clear sense of identity. Belonging is the basis to achieve anything. And in the military, I had a hard time finding my people. Looking the way that I look in a male predominant environment, especially in the military,
Yeah.
there was no community or culture for people that looked like me. And
Yeah.
so while I excelled in what I did and it taught me the discipline, it also taught me what I was missing. And I think
Yeah.
that was the biggest lesson I took from that was when I get out of here, I need to start using my brain and finding my people and not using my body to bring a paycheck because it wasn't going to run me to it wasn't aligned with where I wanted to take my life. It wasn't aligned with the wealth accumulation, with making a broader impact in the world. The military, a very different mindset. And while it taught me resilience and discipline and consistency and the rewards behind that, it also really showed me a lot about myself and what I need to thrive. And it was just not the environment that I could do that in.
That makes so much sense. And I really, by the way, I just want to say thank you for your service. What branch did you serve in?
I was in the US Army. I was at 88 my truck driver for forward support field artillery unit in Oklahoma.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is amazing. I've had, basically every generation of our family has served. I'm an Army brat myself. I can't say I served, but we certainly flew around with dad's assignments. And it is an amazing thing. And it's something that we all should be extremely grateful for. It is really hard work, and I value so much what you do. But I also really love what you said just now about realizing that you wanted to use your brain and not your body, or that you would have to in order to accumulate wealth and, go further. and go wherever you were wanting to go or could envision for yourself even at that time. And this makes me think so much about, you can meet someone in car sales or something. They're just there getting a paycheck and, hopefully, right? And it's really, they're just kind of physically being there to rep that product. But when you go to something like real estate, that is a knowledge based occupation. It's something that I wanted for my boys as they were growing up, going into college or earning a trade or a skill of some kind. We're in a knowledge based occupation. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that or value it to the extent that it is. But when you build expertise in any sort of job like this, or any sort of career that can value what over just the warm body that's, punching a clock, then or driving a truck, right? Then you are able to excel at, I think, at such a greater level. What a fantastic thing to have said. You said that you would tell your younger self to stop waiting for permission, and start building. When did you realize that the rooms you were trying to fit into were too small for the leader that you were becoming?
It would be between the military service for sure. Like that would be like the basis was like I didn't have a seat at this table, and no matter how hard I tried or how well I did, it just was never aligned. So I always say like if you don't have a seat at the table, you build your own damn table because the people that you're going to invite, it's going to come back far exponentially greater, and the reward of the opportunities you're going to create for others is far better than you trying to squeeze, shrink, conform, and fit into an identity that you don't align with. So military's the basis of that. But then I got into real estate, on the premise I was 21, going through a divorce. I had no money. I had no family. I was building a business with a place I didn't have a sphere of influence from, let alone, I'm 21. There's no one buying houses at 21, at least from New Jersey. Like all my sphere of influence is
Yeah.
halfway across the country and nobody's buying houses. So, you know, I knew that I wanted to make it work, but I started my career on the foundation of pain. I was going through a divorce. I had my back up against the wall. I had no money. I was very vulnerable at the time. And what it taught me was like you could leverage pain as one of the most exponential sources to achieve. I crossed six figures that year. I had six figures by 22, bought my house that same year. Like I was successful on paper. I was going and teaching agents. I was building my team. And I leveraged that story of like, hey, I came from nothing. I went through this divorce. I went through all these things. You could do it too. But what I
Yes.
didn't, and now looking back, I wish someone saw me and saw that girl who was preaching that and like put a hand on my shoulder and said, what you're doing is remarkable and your message is powerful, but just don't get stuck in the grief. Don't get stuck in
Mhm.
the anger. Because while successful on paper and while telling people my rags to riches story, I was still so mad. I was so angry. I was still so hurt because I like built all of this success on paper and I'm making money and I'm doing all these things. And like this person left my life and was building a new one. And I like felt like I didn't get to fully heal. Like I felt like because my life was at risk, I was in a vulnerable position. I had to just go on the basis of survival. I had to survive. So I kept building and building so fast. And I was building this table and I was doing all these incredible things. I never took care or looked at my own emotions. Like how am I actually doing? Because I thought if I'm making money on paper and my bills are paid, I'm good. Like, I don't have to worry about nothing. I didn't think
Yeah.
about me. I didn't get stuck. I got stuck in that. So I like was doing good on paper and then was stuck in this emotion. And so I really had to like pull back and say, like, why am I doing this? What tables am I building for? Because there's a lack of clarity. Because my version of success is now different because I hit what I thought was successful metrics and I am still not happy. I base success off of net happiness and whether someone is
Yeah.
clear about the identity of themselves after they walk away from encountering with me. And so that's where I found pride. And I was like, okay, I did the whole like making money cross six figures thing, but I don't have community. I don't have people to help me, just not feel so alone. Because I was in rooms with hundreds of people and I was still coming home every night to an empty house and an empty room. And like it is so tolling
Yeah.
to do this alone. Um,
Yes.
and it took a big mental toll. And so that's why I grew the Pride Network. I was like, I'm in Oklahoma It's very conservative out here. There's not a lot of gay people, but I said, you know what? I'm going to create the space if it doesn't exist. And so that's when I grew that organization from 900 agents to over 20,000 in a year. And that was solely on the premise that when agents stop building alone, everything changes. Their relationships change. Their community changes. The more money they make, more money. Like everything changes when the agent stops building alone and just getting fanatical that belonging is not just some checkbox, some freaking feel good space. Like it is an intentional space and is the foundation to everything that ceased to exist that is successful. Like you can replace systems, you can duplicate what EXP does, you could duplicate what I do at One EXP, but you
Yes.
can't replace my culture because you can't replace people. And people are what make culture.
So true. Absolute massive mic drop at the end there. I mean, just literally the fact you chose the word fanatical, about we talk about like get obsessed. And we tend to think of this as like a negative word, right? Fanaticism or obsession or whatever. And in fact, this is a choice, right? We can choose to become obsessed about the things that are going to help us, not harm us. We can choose to be fanatical about the things that cheer us and encourage us and make us feel alive. And like you said, not alone. And there was something, just so important that I want to highlight as well that you mentioned, which is this concept of grief. And we often think of grief related to the death of a loved one, or even a pet or whatever. Also, right, a loved fur baby. But the thing is, grief can be the loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, the loss of an identity, the loss of a physical ability or self. David Kessler writes multiple books about grief, and I recently did an episode on grief. The thing is, like, it's you got to give space to it, and you got to be able to allow yourself permission to go through a grieving process, and in fact, to acknowledge it. So it's like you mentioned, your anger was also fueling you, but it was also, pulling you backwards at the same time and making you feel, incomplete in some way. Absolutely love what you mentioned about the Network. And I did not realize when I introduced you that 900 to 20,000 people occurred in 1 year. That is utterly phenomenal. Just massive, props to you for being able to do something like that. But I have seen you speak on stage at EXPCon. I've seen you speak, just a few weeks ago at a PDX rally, and you are an electric speaker. And is why I was so excited to have you on here today, because you are what I can see is a woman who is like full tilt boogie engaged in being yourself and helping others embrace the concept of also finding, becoming, and being them and living as themselves as well. And I cannot think of a more noble pursuit, together with, by the way, real estate, where we allow people and help people to make their own financial dreams come true, to help them resolve issues when, there is someone passing away and they have to just, figure out how to sell their home and all these things. We are dealing with humans all day, every day. I wanted to ask you, you helped grow the One EXP Pride Network, again, from that great membership. What do you think was the hardest part of turning that belonging from just a conceptual idea into a real system that people could feel, trust, and participate in, the granular doing of creating that?
Yeah. There were two problems I was solving for when I stepped into the role. And it was either people knew who we were and they didn't understand the value of it, like One EXP and the
Yeah.
Pride Network, or they had no idea who we were. And so it was all outbound and outreach, right? Like one, demonstrating the clear economic business outcome of what belonging really means. And then being a lot more intentional about the space because it was there for a while. That's why I was only at 900 because it wasn't really engaged as a platform or a business driver. It was more of just a safe space.
Yeah.
We have to, I don't need another safe space. I need to make some money. Okay. I don't care. I mean, like, I understand it's important to
Yeah.
have the safe space, but that's what you got Facebook for. That's what you got. I can sign up for any support group any day of the week. Like, I don't need another safe space. What I need is a place that I could grow. I need a space that I could feel safe to grow. And
Yeah.
especially in the LGBTQ plus demographic, there is so much negative connotations around building wealth, right? There's a lot of negative connotations about they're like tax, eat the rich, all the things. Cause like
Right.
historically speaking, a lot of political, there's been a lot of political conflict around that specific communities. There's a lot of hurt feelings in navigating like their perception of wealth. Every other resource group that I oversee has a different viewpoint of wealth. Like when I was talking to the Slavic network, their challenge is like in their culture, they don't like taking debt. Like they're against debt. So like that gap is
Yes.
like showing them how to leverage debt in a good way. For the Pride Network, it was we don't want to accumulate wealth because we assume that money is bad. Whereas like I have to teach them money is a tool and money is the magnifier of the
Yes.
essence of who you already are. It's not going to
Yes.
change you. It only amplifies what you're doing. Like it is a tool. So it was reworking the negative connotations around just the space, then also redesigning the purpose. And so education was a big piece. I want to close the wealth gap and put more LGBTQ plus members in that conversation. And the only way I'm going to do that is by educating them. So I'm putting them in
Yes.
proximity to not just gay people, I'm putting them in proximity to people with high influence that can speak to these things and connect them. I have never been in the business of changing anyone's mind. I'm in the business of showing that you can collaborate with someone regardless of the background that they come from, period. So
Yes.
I was
Yes.
never, I've sit in rooms with people who, are very open about their beliefs and their views, and it is different than mine. But I lead them by example to show that there is more power in sitting in a room with someone having a conversation on collaboration, regardless of their belief, than me creating just some space for this specific demographic of people to go silo themselves. Like, oh, this is only for gay people. This is only for the LGBTQ.
Yeah.
Like that is not solving for anything. Allyship is the most
Yeah.
important component to this thing. And I would say
Yes.
synergy and intersectionality was the big thing. Collaborating with other leaders and other resource groups that had a higher following, higher influence, borrowing leveraged influence from other groups and other people, pulling them in and over delivering on value. Like most people are like, under promise, over deliver. I over promise and I over deliver. I say yes to things I don't know what the hell I'm saying yes to, and I'm gonna shoot for them hip because I promise you, I will figure it out. Like I I'm the type of person like if I want to succeed in one thing or anything, I will burn every damn bridge. Like every other exit. Like I will make sure I have no other way but forward. Like I don't let myself cuz I it's human nature. We want to backtrack. Sometimes we get in over our head on something. Like with the Pride Network, I was like, "Oh God!" Like when it grew to 10,000, I said, "Oh shit, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna figure this out?" Then it grew to 20, and now I oversee 50,000. It's not about always
My
having the right
God.
answers. It's being willing to say yes and figure it out along the way. Like I have never been fully prepared for any opportunity I've ever taken. Like it's just about figuring it out and being
Yes.
willing to fall forward the fastest.
Yeah. 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 And incredible, right? Because what you're talking about, and I wrote down say yes to all, right? Two things really stood out to me. There was so much wisdom in what you said, but also just this idea that, I was thinking military when you said, I will burn every bridge and I'm just only going forward. That actually sounds like, military discipline right there of just like you go and it doesn't matter. You figure out the why later. But the other thing is just that, pure bravery, and let's call it, perhaps optimism to go, I have no idea how to do this, but I'm just going to go for it anyway. And, I'm trust in myself. I'll pivot on the fly or whatever that is. And if you listen to, Krista Mayshore was a coach of mine. And if you listen to that, it's like, do it now, run forward, fail forward, just do it. Because she found that all of the highest level, coaching groups where you pay $250,000 or whatever a year just to be a part of it, all they're doing is they're fast action takers. Those are the top money makers. They're launching every idea they have and they're not getting ready really. They're just like, okay, I got an idea. Let's implement now and I'll figure out how to ride that bike as I go. And they're not afraid of failure because they understand failure is where you learn, and they're not afraid to embrace, running forward, falling as you go and kind of figuring it out how to run. I absolutely love that you said that. And how incredible, because there's something about real estate that you can make it fit whatever world vision, whatever whatever your group, whatever your culture, whatever your desire in life is. There are people who, they'll do it and they're sending a lot of money to sell a home, save a child. There's people who are doing it and, they're like Tawana Jackson, who's literally changing the downline wealth of an entire demographic of her, her suburb, I think in Chicago. And then there's, you've got the LGBTQ network where you're saying, like, I want these people to understand that wealth belongs to you too. You do have a seat at that table. You do belong there. And this is phenomenal too, this idea. And I love that you kind of just dropped that like a little point in the sentence, which was you're over 50,000 people now. And this has been an evolution of what you were able to do for the Pride Network. And now I want to hear you explain a little bit about, what is EXP1? Obviously I know, but for our listeners, I want to hear more about that and what that's like. Cause you've been in conversation with the Slavic network. You dropped a couple there that you were mentioning. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, 1EXP is our community infrastructure where agents find their people. They turn belonging into real business outcomes, culture into closing, connection into currency. Like the foundation that authenticity is your highest form of currency. And so 1EXP is our micro cultures. EXP
Yeah.
Realty, and what differentiates us as in this industry is that we have a macro culture, which is where most companies stop. They have a macro, but we created a micro culture, which are cultures that are built for agents by agents. And the whole
Yeah.
premise to that is you can't slap the word culture on a macro level and expect 83,000 people to somehow find a place in this one big blanket word. It's too broad. Like we have our,
Yeah.
collaboration over competition, right? And just the things like we want as a company culture, but as people culture, that is just as important, if not more, as far as the sense
Mhm.
of retention. Like, so these are microcultures that are led by our agents, and each group represents a systematically, historically marginalized group, like Women's Impact, Young Professionals, Slavic Network, Pride
Yes.
Network, Black Network, Latino. There's 16 of them. So there's
Yeah.
50,000 agents across the 16 different resource groups. And essentially, the whole point is like one, it's a referral network, of course, right? But two, it's a platform that you can gain the relationships, resources, and leadership development, not just to grow as an agent at EXP, but to grow as a leader across the industry. We're leading industry wide change. We're rewriting the playbook on how culture is done. Like for instance, Nest Network is a new network we launched this last year. Nest is for nurturing every transition or nurturing every sustainable transition. It is a resource group that is made for parents and caregivers that are navigating the space of entrepreneurship, right? Where are you going to find? You're not going to find that in another company. There isn't another company in this industry across the world that has a group that is specifically designated for parents, like
Yes.
caregivers too, not just biological parents, for anyone that is caregiving. And we're giving them
Yes.
community and talking about the things that they don't talk about. Mental health. We're not just talking about a therapy session. We're talking about financial health, mental health, spiritual health, physical health. We are hitting everything, right? We're just having the
Yes.
conversations that they're not having in this industry. And so 1EXP is our culture driver. It's the resource for agent production. When our agents are at 1EXP, they're producing more. We have better retention because we're giving them community. We're helping them attract more agents because we're positioning them so well to create impact. Like we're not worried about, like I was never worried about hitting 20,000. I was never worried about hitting 50,000. I don't care about the numbers. I care about how many people that we're
Yes.
impacting. Like that's what matters.
Yeah.
And so 1EXP is just doing it differently. And so it's the heartbeat of culture for us. And the amount of testimonials and ability that we can make an impact on agents' lives is huge. And like I tell people when they join, back to what you were saying before, is like say yes to the opportunity, but don't
Yes.
do what I did if you can relearn and don't say yes to every single thing. Say yes to the things that feel most aligned because I said yes to everything and then hit a plateau in my career almost 2 years ago where I was paying $1,000 for a coach, building this community like 1,000 a month. And at the time, like it was stretching me financially because I wasn't making a whole lot. Uh,
Yes.
and like he wanted me to make 590 phone calls a day and like do all these crazy things. And I was like, this doesn't feel aligned for me, dude. Like I know I'm paying you and I know you're telling me it's gonna make me a better agent, but like I don't even know if I want to be an agent after you coaching me. Like I hate this. So I like it's ludicrous. Like when I teach people at Winning XP is like, cause they always say like, practice makes perfect. I'm like, well, if you're practicing the wrong shit, you're never going to get proficient at the thing. Like I was never meant to be a cold caller. I was never meant to be open
Yeah.
house. I hosted 8 open houses a weekend for 6 months straight, a weekend.
Wow.
And like, I don't know. I teach people, it's like my communities at Winning XP, like say yes to the things that feel most aligned. And if you wouldn't
Yeah.
want it being done to you, don't do it onto others. Like I hate when I get a cold call. I'm not going to cold call someone because I know how it feels. It's just not that's not relationships will come to me naturally. So I show people like at Winning XP how they could build relationships. They're going to take them to the
Yeah.
next level. And then they have a better sense of why and a better anchor. And like, I think if you really want your life to change, find someone who needs it more and give. Period. Like you can be the worst agent in the world. If you're focusing on giving, like that,
Yes.
Winning XP is the economic flywheel. And it's very interesting if you actually take a look at the economic flywheel of Winning XP, because what I call reciprocity in economics, it's a flywheel. What the agents put in, they get 10x out of it every time.
Yeah. Fantastic. And just an incredible thing. The fact that number one, they can find community, they can find themselves inside of this. And number two, like you said, I mean, that's a huge number you just gave us, right? 10xing whatever energy and whatever they put out. And it's important, I think, to mention what you're putting in, right? Because if you're just checking a message once a month, you're not really engaging in that community. But the people who are seeing a lot coming out of it, they're engaging at a higher level, they're somehow contributing, they're adding their voice to the conversation in whatever way that makes sense. And just like you said, that 10x coming out of it, I think is phenomenal. And the fact that you have this energy that you're able to give to such an incredible leadership position. I love that you called it the economic flywheel, because it's got multiple spokes, right? And we know that everyone can find a place. I know an agent who's a caregiver. So this idea that, and we have an aging population in the US, we know this. One of the biggest aging populations, the baby boomers. And now, that's kind of coming to the last, group that is aging. And so we're all going to deal with becoming perhaps a caregiver or something in our lifetime. And whether that's being a parent of young ones, or whether that is caring for a parent or someone else, this is a unique world, and they feel quite alone quite often. And I think this all kind of ties back to that you had an identity where you were feeling alone, even though, like you said, you were surrounded by people, you were wildly successful, you had all the metrics, but you did not feel known, heard, and having a sense of community where you felt you were, as you say, aligned and belong. And so that people can have that, and that we have so many groups. I can tell you, having been at a couple of brokerages, I have not seen this level of these micro communities, even with brokerages that have been around for many many decades longer. I wanted to ask you, who helped you understand the difference between being visible and being truly, sponsored, advocated for, or believed in, and how has that shaped the way that you open doors for others?
Two people that came up to mind, I would say
Yeah.
Jessica Nieto, Wendy Forsythe. They taught
Yes.
me the difference between a mentorship and a sponsorship. And in the beginning of my career, I was looking for mentors. I wanted to be taught from people. And I was like, I want you to and I knew like if you tell me to do something, I'm gonna do it. But I was intentionally seeking out these relationships in hopes of like a mentor mentee reciprocity type of relationship. The
Yes.
greater, more important half that I was missing is the sponsorship, because sponsors are going to put your name in the rooms. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if nobody's like advocating for you or saying, hey, you need to know this person, sponsors put the opportunity in front of you. Mentorship prepares you for that time. You need both. And so they taught me what sponsorship was. And so my whole world changed. I was like, oh, it's a whole lot easier to get opportunities when you have people with credibility backing you and saying this person needs
Yes.
to be heard or seen versus just having a mentor teach you what, you need to know. I don't need to know everything.
Yes.
Like I need the sponsor, I need the opportunities to then figure it out, right? And so, they sponsored for me continuously. And one of the things and I'm very open about it is like I don't lead or teach from a place that I've perfected everything that I preach. I lead and
Yeah.
teach from a place that I've experienced everything that I've preached. I've experienced that pain. I've experienced multiple seasons of my life like I relate to those things. So, you know, for me in the whole like opportunity on sponsorship, you know, one, you have to decide that you're someone worth following. Because even if they sponsor for
Yes.
you, like they taught me, you also
Yes.
have to choose that you are a leader worth following. But they also showed me how much faster you can grow if you become the sponsor for others. Like before I ever ask anyone for anything, I lead the conversation with value. What can I do to support you? What opportunities can I create for you? Because in the law of reciprocity, they're going to want to give back to me anyway. And usually, 9 times out of 10, they offer the thing that I wanted first. Like, I don't even have to ask. So, like, my whole framework of how
Yes.
I approach these relationships and conversations and sponsorships are so different. When I want someone to
Yeah.
sponsor for me, I'm sponsoring for them first. And again, like coming from a place of like, not that I've perfected everything, I'm the perfect leader. I am someone who is actively learning and actively growing, but also have the experience and relational, I guess, like I'm acutely aware of the emotions and the things that we go through. And like I said, like the
Yeah.
cost of loneliness. When you
Hmm.
succeed and you level up, like no one talks about the self audit you have to go through to shed the
Yes.
relationships and the weight of the things that felt comfortable. And these are people like I've loved, these are family members. These are like, even to this day, my own family doesn't exactly understand what I do. I know that they know that I'm good at what I do, but they don't understand. They're not in my world. Right. And so
Yes.
having the right sponsors that are also going to lift you up too, like put the opportunities, speak to you there, but also like sponsor you into the right communities because it's opportunities, but then also communities. Because you can have the opportunities and all the things, but again, still have those seasons where like you've had to let go of this old skin or this old identity, and you're in the middle of this bridge between finding the new one, right? And nobody talks about that transition period, especially when you're moving up and you have because the momentum happens so fast. You can have a bunch of sponsors throwing all these opportunities at you. But I would say, like, in the midst of all that too, like, don't forget about you. That is something I still
Yes.
like, I still have to be very cognizant of because I will still go days where I'm like, "Oh, I didn't drink as much water as I should have," or, because I'm so into
Yeah.
people and I love people and I'm like, I'm a lover and I'm a relationship person that, like, if there's anything, like, you could take from that is, like, yes, get the sponsors, but also remember to fill your own cup in the process and don't just be so fixated
Definitely.
on a number or a money amount. Focus on a number of impact and your net happiness and you'll, at least I hope, escape the curve that I did because at 24, 25, I was having heart problems because I was neglecting myself. And again, doing really well on paper, but I was having heart palpitations and I'm not even 30. I turned 26 a couple days ago. Like this is a season of life I
Happy
just
birthday.
lived. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah. I think transparency about it is also a super important thing. There's a lot of leaders that preach to you as if they've perfected it, but I don't think anyone has,
Yes.
you know?
No. No, and I think that's a fabulous point. And by the way, it should give people permission because you don't actually need to have perfected someone, or sorry, perfected something to be able to then be the person who teaches it to others because everyone needs someone that can communicate and teach to someone else. Because a teacher that really sparks your interest may not spark mine. I may hear it in a different way from a different instructor, and what we need is that generosity of people that are willing to advocate for what they know, even if they don't know it perfectly, but be willing to get out there and share information. And yes, I mean, we see people on stages, I think, all the time that, maybe their core that they really have is just a desire to share, beyond their fear of speaking on that stage. If your desire to share and help others is greater than your fear of standing there in a cold sweat and trying to figure out what to say, because I think all speakers have some of that stage fright, hit them at times. If that is greater, if your desire to share and like you say, contribute to others is greater, you'll be able to get on that stage. And just that point that you made about don't forget about yourself. High anxiety, these, when you're really performing at a high level, your body may not be ready for that, and you've got to be able to get the rest and drink the water and do the things, and like you say, kind of analyze yourself and be able to be in touch with that as well, because we can't run full tilt boogie all the time without some sort of a consequence. I wanted to ask you, and by the way, I just want to highlight this thing that you said between mentorship versus sponsorship. Sponsorship is this idea they are your fan and they're going to go figure out how to help you get there, versus that mentorship of being a great teacher. And I really loved what you said about that. And I absolutely knew Wendy's name was, going to come up there as well, because she was just absolutely fangirling on you, on stage. Oh, I don't know, about a month ago in Portland. And it was really fun to see, how she was able to see massive potential in what you could do and the difference you could make. And just kind of, literally directed you towards a higher level occupation. And I hope the audience really got what you said of lead with what can I do for you? And just the fact that it seems to have worked so well, like magic, really. I think I wrote down magic, for you, that you're seeing that the thing people often offer you is, in fact, what the thing you were kind of next hoping to achieve or be able to get access to in terms of where you're going in your life. I know that our time will be coming to an end soon. And so I have a couple of, pivotal questions that I wanted to ask you. For the woman listening, who feels like she has to earn every seat before she can claim it, what would you tell her about using her voice before she feels fully ready?
A couple things. I would say this industry, let's call it out blatantly. This industry was not made for women. To this day, like you look at the C-suite seats, who's running the conversations, who's sitting at the tables. We know that there's still a gap for women. Don't go into rooms expecting that seat to be there for you, right? Like that, unless you want to get your heart broken and be disappointed 1,000 times, like don't go in there with that expectation. Like understand that like women, there are different nuances and things that we have to navigate. But here's the thing. You don't have to earn a seat at the table. There isn't some kind of credibility factor. Like like I said, like you get to decide that you're someone worth following. And it's going to be scary and you're never going to feel ready. You will never, and here's the thing that I learned, and this is carried with me through public speaking and all the things, like if you're scared or if you're nervous, good. That means you freaking care. That means you give a damn about the thing that you're doing, right?
Yes.
Channel that energy. And like, if you're going to go up on a stage, or if you're going to go speak to a room of people, or you're going to go present an idea, even if it's on a one-to-one, quit worrying about what you look like and start worrying about the freaking impact you're about to make. If you shift the energy from what are people going to think about me? Women, we're always concerned about what our perception is. We don't want to take up too much space. We don't want to sound too aggressive. We don't want these labels, because what you would call a man being assertive, you'd call a woman being, a bitch. She's being bitchy, or she's, um, condescending, or like name it, right? Women
Sure.
are labeled with terms of aggression, whereas men, it's perceived as leadership and authority, or we're perceived as aggressive or catty or all the things. So, like,
Yeah.
keep in mind, like you have to want it more than anyone else. Like know that you are deserving. Like when I say like you get to decide you're someone worth following, it's because you know that you are so freaking deserving of success. You're so deserving of a good life and you are so deserving of having fulfillment and having relationships. That's one. And then two, you know, being intentional about creating the space because you're not going to fit at every room. You're not going to fit at every table, right? And if you fit in some, good. But if you feel the friction, like you have to prove yourself or if you have to conform or do anything, that table was not built for you. I spent years trying to conform and trying to make myself likable to fit at these tables. Like, don't do that. Like, the faster you build your own table, then the faster you're going to find your community. Because the more that
Yes.
you're like, oh, I don't know if I have my community. I don't know if it's meant for me. Like, if that's the mindset you have, then you're going to find the synchronicities that align with that mentality. So if you change the
Yeah.
mentality of like, I deserve a seat at the table. There's no one that deserves this more than I do. I'm here to change lives. I'm here to create a legacy. And there's no one and nothing that wants it more than I do. And I will burn every bridge to get there. It's only temporary defeat until you accept it as permanent failure. So if you simply don't accept the circumstance you're in, if you don't accept the season of life that you're in right now, inevitably it will change. But when I said like practice doesn't make perfect, don't practice if the thing isn't working, change. Practice makes perfect if you refine the practice as you go. Don't practice the same thing if it keeps getting you to the same place.
Yes. Man, so much wisdom in there. Absolute incredible. I get to recap this after we're done today, and it's just incredible how much, energy and love for people and their rise you are emanating all of the time, and so much wisdom that you can tell is really hard earned and came from just a real, inward look as you were rising. And to think that this is coming from someone who just turned 26 a few days ago, it's for me is phenomenal. And I am so excited for all that you do going forward. And I certainly will be there cheering in every crowd because you absolutely amaze me. And you are giving so much more to the people around you, and that will always lead, I think, to great success for you and them both. I want to thank you for being here so much, Camryn. This has been a huge honor and just a great thrill. I think one of those things, and it's one of those groups, like you said, young professionals at EXP, we need younger voices because I'm not going to appeal to everyone and my story is not going to work for everyone. I want younger voices that agents like the ones on my team can hear and can really appeal to them as well, and get be able to hear them where they're at. And so you succeed on so many levels at just being a great ambassador for what's possible, I think, in this industry and in this company. I wanted to think or wanted to ask just two questions. Is there a book, and it can be literally leadership, it could be anything that you have found you tend to go back to over time, or that you really find some value from, that you think would be a great favorite that you could share? And then the next thing is, where can people find you? Where can they connect? And how can they find access to the wisdom that is Camryn Cisneros?
First book that came to mind, free plug for Wendy, Leverage Your X Factor. It is an incredible
Yes.
book. She had just released it. All proceeds go to Extend a Hand. And she really, and I spoke to her about this on a podcast the other day, is she speaks from a vantage point of experience and she's not afraid to be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
going into this industry so early on, I saw these leaders and I was like, wow, like they're like so perfect. They look so badass. They look so cool. Like and they're so open and vulnerable in the sense of like opening up about like I have hard days too, or like I've had to choose between conformity and making the choice on like my authenticity. Like she is a woman that has spent, you know, her most in all of her real estate career getting into rooms that weren't built for women and then creating the space. And so
Yeah.
I've never met a leader that has achieved the level of success that she has, but yet is still so personable and relatable and
Yes.
understands that diversity like the more vantage points that you have at your table is like more people that you can impact because you're connecting to more people and you have a better reflection of the marketplace. She has that culmination of like the economic knowledge, but also the emotional intelligence overlay. Whereas like typically economic business people kind of run one way, right? And they're really business number metric. Whereas like for me, I'm very
Yeah.
emotional and relational metric. She's got that really great, you know, mixture of both. And there's just
Yeah.
so much knowledge and takeaway like in the marketing sense. And then nine figure mindset taught me model, mimic, master, multiply, which is a framework that is helped me tremendously in leveraging people to help me build. And then Russ Lagan, our
Love
VP,
it.
well,
Oh, yeah.
EXP University, be followable. If you want to learn how to be one heck of a leader, his book Be Followable, he also released that this year. Those three books I couldn't recommend enough.
Absolutely. And Russ, by the way,
And
what a
then
fun, just amazing guy. What were you going to say? Yes. How
I
to
love
follow you.
him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love him. Yes, socials is my first and last name, Camryn Cisneros. You look it up on
Yes.
Instagram, Facebook. I'm on there. Follow me there. I'm on YouTube. Built to Belong series is my podcast, so they can go find it on YouTube and get plugged in. We talk about, I'll have you on there next, where we talk about, in culture and people's stories. Because the most important thing that we talk about is not just like the success of agents, but like the trials and tribulations and things that they've been through and showing people
Yes.
what's possible in spite of
Yes.
those things. Because, like we said in the very
Yes.
beginning of the episode, is like I was successful, but still carried this underdog mentality. And it kind of conflicted because you get to a point you're no longer the underdog. So, like, that narrative no longer works for you. And so, we show people in
Yes.
conversations on our social channels. So, if they're interested in that, please go follow us, stay connected. And we would love to even hear your story. If you've got a story worth telling and you want to get it out there, like we are the amplifiers to help people grow. And that's it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being part of the podcast today. It has been just an energetic, wisdom filled conversation as I knew it would be. Audience, please stay tuned. We're going to be able to do the recap with Camryn Cisneros and for her takeaways. And remember, you guys can visit the website for all of the worksheets and other things that can help you actually apply the takeaways from our conversation in your own lives, as well as her links so that you can follow her and learn more and maybe jump on that podcast and share your own story one day. So stay tuned for that. Camryn, thank you again so much. I have loved our conversation.
Likewise. And to many more. We're going to do a lot more of these in the future. So I'm so excited. And thank you for having me. It has been a lot of fun getting to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Well, folks, that's it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on Women Who Rise, the success podcast for ambitious women. Today, Camryn taught us the difference between mentors versus sponsors. Mentors, as she put it, provide you preparation and skills. Sponsors are someone that can open doors for you. And so she understood that you really need both. You need people that can provide skill sets to you, can show you, take you under their wing, but you also need people that are willing to be your greatest fan, that can open those doors for you, provide you seats at a table that you otherwise could not access. And so just figuring out, where are you? Which one do you need? Do you need both at this time? And look, one person can be both things as well, but that it's really critical if you are rising or you're looking to rise in any type of job or environment, you need to be able to have people that can both give you that helping hand as well as a leg up. And number two, she talked about, look, you have to decide if that you do have the value to get inside of or create the rooms that you seek, the seat at the table. You have to make the conscious decision that you are worthy, you are deserving. This is what you deserve, and that you are worth following. And she talked about the internal decision-making process that happens so that you can recognize, are you hanging on to old baggage? Are you hanging on to old identities that are not serving you as you go forward? Are you taking care of yourself and making sure that in fact you are providing the best rocket fuel to yourself as you go forward? And definitely looking at, you have to make that conscious decision. You're not going to be perfect. You don't need to be perfectly ready. You need to make the decision. I am worthy of this opportunity and I will go forward and go for it. Third, she talked about getting plugged in to your community. At EXP1, she mentioned how members in the various different types of subsectors of EXP1, they get 10 times the value back that they put in to those organizations. And really just understanding that the cost of loneliness is in fact a financial cost as well. It is a mental cost, it is an emotional cost, and it can be a financial cost. Because if you are running around without a sense of culture and you do not feel you have a sense of community, Camryn argues that's a pretty lonely way to do business. And you could have a lot of metrics that support your great production and whatever you're up to, but you need to also find your people that you can affiliate with and that you feel is a community where you feel you belong and that you can help them as well. And then fourth, she actually talked about culture helps you build and in fact create a deeper sense of your own identity. So sometimes we're lacking that. We might want to go plug into a culture just so that, or a group, so that we can go and more deeply develop our own sense of identity within that community. And that would give you then greater job and career satisfaction. Also, I would argue that it helps you find your passion in real estate. Camryn and I spoke quite a bit about the fact that real estate is this modifiable entrepreneurial endeavor where you can go out and seek out different ways to experience real estate and different communities you could choose to help, or different passion projects you can help both inside and outside of home sales. And so just being able to create who you are, your identity at a deeper level, finding a group that supports that, and then being able to embrace maybe how you can support or help either that group or maybe others that you see as someone that, something you do can make a difference in the world today. So please visit our website to find our episode guide and worksheet that will help you use these tips to take action in your own life. Please like and subscribe and join us everywhere podcasts are streamed. We cannot wait to bring you more incredible content every week so that you can rise in your own lives and careers. Again, thank you so much. Heather Mansy signing off.